So since this entire channel and YouTube movement, the I'm So Fly movement, the YouTube channel, all started with the book I'm So Fly, and it's all because of him. I feel like the Lord said to get back to that. So for any of you that don't know what this movement is about, it all started with this book that I wrote in, or actually finished in 2018. I started writing it maybe in 2015. I think I started in 2015 and didn't actually finish until 2018 because of my own ridiculousness and my own issues with giving myself to the Lord like completely. And I felt like actually I wanted to address that also. So I know that a lot of people have known me throughout the years, and you're like, okay, well, I knew Angel was Christian, but I didn't know you were going like you're going right now, Angel. And I would say that I wasn't. And so then why did things change for me? I'll tell you why. So I gave my life back to the Lord at the age of 26, where I really began to change basically how I was living. I wanted to live by God's principle, and I said, hey, you need to do this better. I started going back to church where I hadn't been back to church in a very long time. And I was like, you know how you're raised, if you were fortunate enough to be raised by Christian parents, you always know that eventually you're going to get back to that place, or you hope you do anyway. Or you always feel a need to. So I always felt that, in my younger 20s, and eventually at age 26, I was like, I've had enough. I was tired of always hitting up against walls, and I thought, you should do something different. You should do this better. I knew my life was supposed to be greater and larger than it currently was at that time. So I started going back to church. I started to try to live by God's way and His principle and what the Bible says to do. And I really started to focus on having that relationship. And it changed me a lot for the better. I really began to see like how ugly of a person I was, and how much I really did need God in my life. For all the ways and the things that I was doing, thinking that I was being fly, I realized that I really wasn't. And it was really nasty and disgusting, and I cursed a lot, and I didn't care about people's feelings, and it was just everything that is not like God. So He did a lot of work in that 10 years of my life. But even when you decide that you're going to become Christian and accept the Lord, there's always that struggle still of wanting to be yourself and kind of still wanting to do whatever you want to do. And by that I mean, we all have our soul, which is our personality. You could either be like someone that is really nasty and mean, and you kind of like being that nasty and mean person. Or maybe you are someone that's really soft and emotional, and you operate off of your emotion a lot. It's not that either of those things are necessarily wrong or bad, but are they what God would have you be? So I feel like we struggle with that. It could also be like business. Let's say that you have a business on your mind and on your heart, and you're like, I want to pursue this business. And you go after that business. But you never stop to ask God, what business would you have me go into, Lord? That's what I mean. It's about, like, there's a place of separating those things and saying, I'm not just going to do this business because I want to. I'm going to do this business because this is what I know God told me to do. So there's always that battle with the Christian. So even for you non-believers and those that are not choosing this way, the funny thing to me is that you are going to heaven or hell also. Whether or not you want to believe what I'm saying to you in these videos, or the other millions of pastors and preachers that try to bring you in, it doesn't matter if you try to shun that information or you don't want to hear it. It doesn't change the fact that when you die, you will be going to heaven or hell. So I would like for you all to start taking a little bit of accountability for that, because you can choose to not listen to me or them, but it still won't change that you're going to heaven or hell. And I believe that if you do not choose God, when you go to hell, you're going to be hearing and have memories of all the people that was trying to reach out to you to help you to understand that there is another way. So don't ever think that just because you choose not to listen, like a lot of people feel like if I don't know that information, then I don't have to abide by that information. That's not true in this case. You are still going to heaven or hell, whether you choose this way or not, whether you choose to live for God or not. At the end of the day, we all get two options, A or B, and I am just hoping that something will catch you. You'll stop to pay attention for a moment to something so that you can make the right decision. And part of why I feel like I needed to make this change and go harder for God is because I think about my friends that I know are not serving the Lord. It hurts my feelings to think that one day, if they don't accept Christ, they're going to be in hell and they're going to be thinking, I can't believe Angel didn't shake me and did not really like make me go with her to church and do all of these things. That's what you're going to be thinking. And I think about how, what kind of friend am I that I don't do that? But at the same time, let's be real. If I were to come to your house and be like, hey, you're going for me to church on Sunday, you would look at me like, really, Angel? I can do what I want to do and I'm watching football today. So I know that in my natural mind, but it doesn't stop that in my spiritual maturity. I think to myself, how upset are they going to be at me if they do not accept Christ and they go to hell? You will burn for eternity in hell. And that's actually a term that none of us can really comprehend because we don't know of anything that's eternal. So I am just hoping, and I know that God is going to reach so many people that haven't chosen Him yet through this, but this is partly why I felt like, Angel, you need to do what God's asking you to do, and this movement and releasing this book was just part of that. I was being selfish and being in my own feelings about it, and I thought, God, when I release this book, I don't need people judging me. I knew that I had given my life to Christ, but I wasn't going all in the way that He wanted me to. And by that I mean, I would still date people that I wanted to date. Well, God doesn't really want us to just date anyone because it brings so much havoc into your life. It causes confusion that doesn't need to be there. It causes hurt and scorn and stuff that doesn't need to happen if you would just stop and do it God's way. I was still drinking, and I don't think that drinking is sin. I think that all things need to be done in moderation. But I do know that there was a period of time that the Lord kept saying, Angel, please stop drinking. You know, I need you to move on with this or do this or that. And I wouldn't because I wanted to do me. Does that mean that I won't go to heaven for it? No, it doesn't mean that. But it means that I am not getting the fullness of what God would have for my life. And so last year it came to a place where I was just like, you know what? I'm not okay with not having the fullness of what God has for me. Does that mean that I need to change now? Yes. Does it mean that I'll probably lose some of those friends that I was going to happy hour with? Maybe. And that's okay, because I am the only person that gets to choose the destiny of my life, and I choose for it to be better than what it has been. And many people will look at my life and say, Angel, your life is great. Like, why do you need to change anything? You live where you want to live, you drive what you want to drive, you own your own business, you work for yourself. And while I am very grateful for all of those things, and all of those things are very true, I am the type person that feels like this. If someone says, Angel, you can have that island, and you say, well, Angel, you already own a house on the island. You can go there anytime you want. Well, I'm the type person that feels like if I can own the island, I'd rather own the island. Then I can get houses for all my friends in the island and all my family, and we can all go there. And that's how I felt about this walk. And that's the point that I came to in my life in 2018. I felt like, yeah, my life is good, but the Lord has shown me visions of me on platforms that I know I'm supposed to be on. God has shown me with many celebrities in my visions and dreams. The Lord has shown me where I've owned multiple properties and I'm traveling all over the world. And I travel now, but not in this capacity. The Lord has shown me where I've been able to bless my own family and friends. And I think about, for instance, Kevin Hart. He recently gave for Christmas all of his friends these old school cars, and now they have like some weird name, Car Club. But I think about stuff like that and I'm like, I'm supposed to be one of those friends. I'm supposed to be doing that for my friends. That's the kind of person I am, and I know that I'm called to do that and bless people that way. So why is it okay to just live this mediocre life that other people tell you that's good enough and it's fine? It's not for me. And I finally came to that place in 2018 where I was like, this is not enough. I'm not okay with this. I'm grateful and I'm happy, but I know what God has shown me, and it's much, much bigger than what I'm doing. So I said to myself, why aren't you reaching it? It's not because I'm lazy. If you know me, you know that I am 80% ambition. All of me, I am so ambitious and I'm so driven and I'm pretty focused most of the time. I would say that I do a pretty good habit of accomplishing my goals and making things happen that I want to happen. But the difference was this: I was not going all in with the Lord. And sometimes God just won't let certain things happen into your life until you go all in. And why is that? Is it because he's mean and he doesn't want you to have it? Definitely not. If he didn't want me to have it, he wouldn't even give me visions and show it to me, or even make me capable of being able to do it. It's because God knows you can't handle it until you get into that place where you're all in with him and he can change the things that needs to be changed and put the correct people in your life. Because when you're all in with God, you won't just let anyone into your life. You won't just date anyone. The Lord knows like the perfect partner that you need, that will complement you to that next level, that will help you reach it and support you in the way that you need to be supported. So it came to that place last year and I was just like, you know what? This is not okay. I am already 36 years old and I do not want to go another 30 years without reaching those places that the Lord has for me. And when we talk about platforms, I am so not a person that cares about being famous or any of that. I want the money that comes with that because I have so many things that I want to do for God and for other people. But I don't need the fame. I don't really care that anyone knows me in that capacity. But the thing is this, I had to come out of Angel and say, Angel, it's not about what you want or don't want. It's about who you're supposed to be reaching. Because there are so many people that are in the same place that you're in. They live a good life. They enjoy what they do in their life and they have a relationship with God. But I've called them to so much more. And why sit on that? Why sit on those gifts that you've been gifted with? And so I was like, you know what? I just have to stop doing that. I know that I'm capable. I know that I can with God's help. So why not just do it? So that's where we are. And that's where things changed for me. I felt like I wanted to address that because I feel like a lot of people are like, wow. And even my close friends have said, you know what? You've changed a lot. And you're right. I had to. It wasn't because, and then I think to myself, the friends that say that, and they don't say that negatively. They say that in support. I think to myself, wait until you see why I've changed. This is going to benefit all of those around me. And I say all of this to you all to encourage you. Because sometimes when you know that you need to change and you know you need to step into that level with the Lord, the enemy will always attack you with what will your friends think? And what will the people around you say? But what bills are your friends paying? And what help are your friends around you assisting in your life? What things are they making better? Furthermore, what friends do you have that you look at and you say, I want my life to be just like yours? And more often than not, those friends are very supportive and they are really there for you, but the devil will never let you feel that. He'll never let you think that they would actually support it. Even those friends that aren't choosing to live the way that I live or have been so very supportive to me. So don't allow like those thoughts of where you know you need to be hindered by what other people might think of you. You need to keep your eye on the prize, and the prize is the life that you really, really want and the life that you know that you've been called to. And so many of us, Christian or not, you have had visions and dreams even as a child. You have written down things that you know that you were called to do, and you look at it and you don't really know how to get there, but you do know that you were called to it. You know that you're supposed to be famous, and you know these things. So stop ignoring it. Stop pretending like it doesn't exist and it's not really there because of fear of what other people might think. And even to just try it. The other fear is trying it. Angel, I could try that, but I'm probably not going to be good at it. Well, you probably won't be good at it initially. Most of us weren't. The part about it and the thing that you have to understand is that you need to put the focus on relationship and fellowship with the Lord and not on the sinning part, which takes me back to this book, which is what we're supposed to be discussing anyway. So in the chapter To Be or Not to Be, one of the things that I talked about is, so why is it that when you hear about the Christian life, you always hear about the sinning part? Why is that? The reason is because that is what the devil wants you to hear. If you hear about something and the first and only thing that you always hear about a thing is a negative thing, it makes you not want to even attempt to go in that direction. So that's why whenever you hear about Christianity and Jesus and going this way, you always hear about, oh, but you can't sin. You can't drink. You can't have sex before marriage. You can't do this. You can't do that. Well, that's his way of making you not ever try it. There are so many more benefits to following the Lord than to not. And even in comparison to not sinning, that it's ridiculous that that is always the topic at hand. But I understand why. It's because that's what the devil wants you to hear first. If I can only tell you the negatives, then that's all that you're going to care about. But why do you stop there is my question to you. How can you only say, well, it's all these bad things, but you never stop to say, well, how are these people getting blessed in this way? Or how's this person following the Lord if it's that case? Or even for me, and those of you that know me, if it was only about like not sinning, do you really think that I would even be pursuing it so hard and trying to convince you of it? It has to be more than that. And if you know me, you know that it has to be more than that. I think about even with a job. When you go on a job, they tell you what you're going to do for the job. They tell you, you know, how much work it's going to entail, how much you need to do. You need to be educated for it, all of these things. You do not stop at only asking those questions. You also ask them, what's the benefits of the job? What's the salary going to be? What does the office space look like? For many of you, what's the car that I get to drive that comes with this job? There are always the benefits and the good part and the advantages. So why is it that when we talk about Christianity, that question never comes up? Or why is that so hard to believe that there must be some advantages? That's because the devil doesn't want you to believe that there is. And this is why we're doing this movement, because you need to see how many advantages there are. You have to know that the benefits of this way far outweighs any of the not sinning. And I want to even go back to that though, like even for the sinning part, it's true, God doesn't want us to sin. So I'm not going to pretend like that's not part of the Christian way and living for the Lord. Of course it is. But you have to stop and ask yourself, why is that so important to Him? And it's because God knows that what it will take you through, all of the hardship that it takes you through when you do choose to sin. And then when you do decide to come to God, God has to go back and clean up all this stuff in your life that you have caused by living a way that He was like, hey, I would prefer that you not live. Because it does do damage to us. It hinders our soul. And then we have to go get all of that cleaned up. There's no shortcut way in God's way. And whenever we constantly pile on all this dirt that we've caused in our life through sin, then God has to go in and clean all of that out. And it's so much easier for God to start with a blank canvas than it is with one that we've thrown a whole lot of mud and dirt and everything that shouldn't be there on. So yes, God doesn't want us to sin, but understand why. Understand it's not just because He doesn't want you to have sex. It's not just about that. It's so much bigger than that. And I wish that even us at our age now, like, how can you not ever ask and question and try to understand that there's so much more to it than that? And how are you okay with still living the life that you live? And it's not even that your life is bad. It's just that you are supposed to have so much more. And when you get to heaven or hell, you are going to be able to see all that God really had for your life. And it's going to make you quite sad. I would say for all of us, even those of us that have done the most, because I still think that God would have had so much more for us if we went in a little bit more for God. And I'm just finally decided, like, God, I don't want you showing me this long list of things I could have had or I should have done that I didn't do. I'm working now to minimize that list a little bit more, because what do I have to lose? I have to lose myself and doing things the way Angel wants, but I've been doing that for 30 years and it still hasn't gotten me to where I want to be. And where I want to be is like in space, because that's how my mind thinks. I think super large, and I only think like that because God has given me that. So I challenge you today to think bigger, want more for your life, and stop letting fear determine how you're going to live, especially fear of what other people think about you and what your friends might say if you decide to give God a try. Are you serious? I can't even imagine someone at my age even telling me that you still care about what people think about you. Like, we're not in elementary school anymore, and you don't need to be somebody's friend to be cool or not be cool. But think about how far you've made it on your own and doing it your way. And even for people that are Christian and you've accepted Christ and you've lived this life for the Lord so many years, don't you want more for your life, even from where you are right now? Because God has so much more for you. It's just really sad to me that we all sit on that and we let God be so small when He wants to be so big. And the Lord says He comes to give you a life that's exceedingly and abundantly far more than you can imagine or think about. So how many people do you feel like you're living an exceedingly abundant life above what you can imagine and think? I know that I'm not. I've thought about all of this and I'm just like, it's supposed to be bigger and more than this. And I am choosing to go after it and let God do His thing in my life so that I can finally see it. Because isn't that what we all want anyway? We all want to live like a better life, an amazing life, one that we're not stressing over check to check and bill to bill and whether or not we can afford this or that. Or moving into neighborhoods that we really don't want to move into, or driving cars that we really don't want to drive, because God has something bigger and better for you. And let's talk about those people that think that God doesn't, or think that it's material to think that God doesn't want you to have this or that. To you, you make me very sad, because the Lord, like I just said, wants you to have exceedingly and abundantly. So when I hear people, and especially sinners or non-believers, say something about pastors that drive fancy cars or that own airplanes, I am like so bothered by that, because one, first of all, you don't know what other kind of businesses they own or what they have to even make that happen. But secondly, part of the Christian walk and living for God and dedicating your entire life to do ministry and be a pastor, the Lord says that He will give you that stuff. So while you can't understand why they would have those things, it is part of the benefit package of even living for the Lord. So stop talking about something that you know nothing about, especially when you're not living for God. And then if you are living for God, you could be driving that car too, and you could have your own plane as well. I know for myself, my list is long. And I know that many people will say, well, Angel, that's just so materialistic. Well, that's fine if that's what you think. I don't really care what you think, because you're not the person that's going to help me get that list. I love cars. I was like, God, I want a yacht. I am truly 100% expecting God to do that for me, because I have decided that I am no longer going to do it my way. I want to do it your way, God, and whatever you say, however I need to make things happen in order to do that is what we are going to do.